Hey guys, Aaron here from A2Z Strength, and welcome to the first episode of the Coach's Corner. The Coach's Corner is a place where I get to meet with some of the most inspiring coaches in our field from Australia and from New Zealand, and we get to talk shop and to just get their version of events of what high performance sport really means and how they actually work within that field. So a little bit about me. I've been working in this field, strength and conditioning, rehab, high performance sports since 2008, primarily in rugby league and in rugby union over in Australia. And I've just recently set up A2Z Strength. So A2Z Strength for me has been a project where I want to create a centralised hub for all things strength, creating some nice products for people to purchase, plus some online content and some inspirational content like the Coach's Corner that you're seeing here. And now on to our first episode, and what a huge episode to start with. Dr. Nic Gill. He is the strength and conditioning coach for the All Blacks. He has been doing that for the last 13 years, which is amazing in itself. He is a professor at Waikato University. He is an avocado farmer. I stole a few of his avos, thank you very much. He is a husband, he is a father, he is an author. This man wears many hats, and he's also a top bloke too. So this was obviously a great chat for me. He made me feel very welcome. We did this at his home, so I thank him very much for that. There's a ton of insights and information about what he does throughout this talk, and I know you'll get a lot of valued information out of this. So without further ado, Dr. Nic Gill. Welcome to the Coach's Corner. Thank you very much for having me at your home.
No sweat, thanks for having me.
In the middle of the orchard, I see.
Yeah, lovely, eh? We need some rain, but...
Well, you're in New Zealand, it's going to come eventually.
It will.
So, how did you get into the field of S&C and high performance? Did you always want to kind of end up in the field of rugby, or how did it start out for you?
No, actually I want to be a policeman to start with, and you know, I went off that probably at the age of 16, 17 and started really enjoying competing in sport. Started enjoying sports science at school. And then I suppose I went and studied physical education, and during that time sort of enjoyed the coaching element of sport. I remember coaching it might have been an under-9 soccer team, so I really enjoyed that, and I suppose it just sort of flourished from there a little bit. Was never going to make it as an elite athlete, so...
Seems to be the common trend in our field, isn't
I'm
it?
not quite that talented physically, but...
Love being around the boys, love the atmosphere.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I genuinely like helping people. So coaching is very much part of that. So I think that's probably where I got my interest. I never set out to be a professional strength and conditioning coach. By all means, that wasn't even an option in the early 2000s. You know, there weren't really many jobs. So
when you were going through uni, what was your kind of desired path? Like a PE teacher, or? No,
I didn't want to be a PE teacher. No, I didn't have a path. Like, it was sort of, I was almost trying to forge my own way, and I wanted to go to the AIS. I wanted to go to the Institute of Sport in Canberra, because they had an amazing research and sports science program that assisted the Australian athletes go to the Olympics and kick butt.
That was for the 2000, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was leading up to that, and I was thinking, well, hey, that's probably what I want to do. So I basically went and did research. I went and continued my studies to try and get into a place like the AIS. So that was my path. And yeah, it didn't quite happen. Did
many Kiwis that you know of go and do that?
No. A few did that after me. A few of my students went on to work at the AIS. That was sort of more 2008, 2009. But no, I didn't know anyone that A, wanted to do that, or two, did it. Back then, not many people that studied sport or sports science ended up in jobs.
Yep.
People did it because that's what they enjoyed, but then there was no jobs, so people ended up going into sports marketing or just marketing and management. You know, so I look at the people that went through PE and sport with me. Not a lot of people ended up in jobs or careers in that industry.
Well, it's funny you say that. So out of my year at uni at Palmy, there's only me and one other guy that I know of, or two other guys that are working in the field of sport.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
not many people get there.
No, yeah, it's very true. But then you look at the amount of people who are now being pushed through the education system. Like, where are these guys going to go?
Absolutely. So have a problem, eh?
Yeah. So what was your journey, I guess, from where you started to get into the All Blacks? How did you kind of ride the wave to get out there? What systems did you go through?
Oh, I basically finished my PhD and was needing a job because I was getting, well, hadn't quite finished. I was getting close to finish, and I always have a plan B. And so before I finished my PhD,
Maybe you should tell my wife that.
Yeah, I think it's important. And so I applied for a job teaching in Hamilton, and was successful getting a job teaching, not at school, at Polytech. So it was like teaching on a degree program.
Yep.
And I was just teaching, been there for sort of 4 or 5 months. And anyway, I volunteered with the current strength and conditioning coach of the Waikato rugby team. I said, hey, I'd love to help you out. Love to dip my feet in the water and help out. And he was kind enough to give me the opportunity, and I'd turn up at 6 a.m. and he'd give me a gym program, and I'd take a few of the players through a gym program, and sort of it just went from there. It went from volunteering to, you know, a little bit of paid work to running the program. And so I was just in the right place at the right time, and obviously was doing an okay job. And it just sort of went sort of every year. I suppose the job became more hours, so therefore more professional, and higher expectations on the players and the athletes, and therefore on the staff. So it was 2001, and so essentially I went through the layers of rugby in New Zealand, from provincial rugby to Super Rugby to All Blacks. And again, I've just been reasonably lucky with the timing of those stints. I've been in the right place at the right time when something's popped up. So so I've been doing it for, 18 years.
So the second stint at the All Blacks, you took over after Ashley Jones, is that right?
So, no, I was assistant S&C coach with the All Blacks in 04, and I left because I was going to start a young family.
Yep.
So Ash Jones came in as assistant in 04, late at the end of 04. Graham Lowe was in charge.
Yep.
And so Graham Lowe and Ash did the rest of that sort of cycle through to the World Cup in 2007. And then at the end of 2007, the head job became available, so that's when I started. And at that stage, we didn't have an assistant; it was just me.
And what's your structure now? You've got yourself, you've got assistants.
Yeah, so I'm full time, and I've got one part-time assistant who works for High Performance Sport New Zealand, Kim Simpringham, and his main brief is sports science. And assistant strength and conditioning coach. So he helps me in the gym, helps with all our monitoring, our athlete management. Real good fellow, really good at what he does, and he's been on board for about 4 years now, and in an increasing role. You know, as the demands on us get greater, we sort of need a little bit more resource. But we're pretty lowly resourced as a team.
Which you wouldn't think of.
No, we have way less staff than most other international Tier 1 teams.
Yep.
And yeah.
Is there a reason for that, or because you guys can actually handle the workload, or the workload isn't there?
Oh, it's one of those things where more people don't make the boat go faster. You know, like often the more staff you have, the more meetings you have to have, and the more conversations you have to have, and the more management of personalities has to go on. So we all have, like within each of our areas within the All Blacks, I think we all have different reasons for having a light, lean staff. But I like being directly in touch and a relationship with every athlete. I don't want staff that I have to then catch up on what athletes are doing and why they're doing it. I'd rather be involved in that process from the ground up across everything we do. So for me, it's a more, I don't want to lose the relationship, a connection with the athlete. So we don't have many support staff.
Oh God, it's like relationships are everything for what we do, isn't it? So it's really important to hear that. What were some of your biggest challenges, I guess, as you were coming through the ranks? Did you have many?
Yeah, I think when I was younger, like I thought that for me to be doing a good job, it meant that all the numbers I created, you know, so how strong an athlete was, how fast an athlete was, I sort of felt like that's what would measure me as doing a good job or not.
And that's such a common theme in our field, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's. I think it's something that took me a while to learn, and it took me to get to the All Blacks to realise that that's not the case.
Is that because you were judged in and outside of the numbers?
Yeah. Whereas you get to that level, and it's like actually the athletes that are here know what it takes to win and perform, and so So I learnt a lot from the athletes at that time, and I suppose when I was younger, there's no way the athletes could teach me anything because I knew it all. And I think that's probably the biggest learning, is just realising that numbers are important, but not the be all and end all. And you can still have one of the best athletes in the world in your sport that doesn't tick the box when it comes to physical numbers. That's okay. And so it's just that learning is really, really important. Richie McCaw's a good example. Absolutely freak of a rugby player, and hated the gym and was weak. And slow.
Yep.
And so when you work with the man, you figure out what's important for him as an athlete, and that's probably the biggest learning I took was from someone like Richie, where it's actually, what are the big rocks for you as an athlete, and let's make sure they are our focus and where we put our emphasis, but knowing that there's these other things that might help you stay on the field for longer, or might help you perform differently as you change as an athlete and as the game changes. So yeah, that's probably the biggest learning, is just getting a bit more in touch with what the athletes need.
So you're kind of essentially just making a more individualised program as opposed to a general one.
Yep.
Why do you think that isn't utilised more than what it is?
I think because we all judged by different things, and if you're an S&C coach, typically, it'll be on how fit your squad is, and you could have the fittest team, but then come season time, you've got 6 people unavailable because they're injured.
Yep.
And then it takes you 3 rounds to get a win. But hey, I did my job.
Yeah, they hit PBs in all the gyms, so my job's done.
Yeah, so I think it's still very much a team approach. You still need a healthy team, and the performance that happens in the weekend is a contribution or a culmination of the coaches, the athletes, and all the support staff working together to get this performance, whatever that is. And so yeah, I remember Graham Henry saying to me one day, I think it might have been my first couple of weeks in the All Blacks, he said to me, so how does it feel being a small cog in a big machine? And I've heard that saying a lot since then. I thought it was a really good comment back then. I'd never heard it before, but it's a common saying. And it was very much how it is. Your role as an S&C coach is a small part of the overall success or performance of that athlete.
I think we can get quite carried away that we actually have a bigger part than what
time.
we.
We all hope we're more important than we actually are.
Yes, yeah. It's quite humbling when you kind of realise that you are just a small part, important part, but small of what makes the whole machine work.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
So mentors, who were they, and I guess what did they teach you?
I've always get asked this. I don't really have because again, mentors are trendy at the moment. It's important for you to have mentors, and I agree. I mean, my mentors were more mates that we would
just throw ideas around.
We had a shared passion. So Christian Cook, who's a sports scientist, or actually a scientist, not a sports scientist, that I shared a lot of amazing conversations. We did a lot of amazing research together, and so I learned a lot from him, and I'm still learning from him. Graham Lowe, who's now a leadership consultant in Aussie, he after the All Blacks he went to America's Cup, then went to Scotland Rugby Union, then went to Western Bulldogs, high performance manager of the AFL. So he's someone that I've always respected, admired, and gone on really well with. And another person that I've known for a long time, who actually has helped me with the All Blacks for a number of years, but he was the All Blacks S&C coach in the early 2000s, Mike Anthony. So he's now high performance manager of New Zealand Rugby, and him and I have known each other for 18 years, and around numbers and relationships, and so he's someone that I'll always bounce stuff off, and he'll always give me honest feedback and stuff. And so yeah, more mates than mentors, but and that's just happened over a long period of time where you have common interests and common views.
Cool. So break down your periodised plan, I guess, for the year. What does a year look like for you? I guess World Cup year and out of World Cup year.
Yeah, I suppose the year for me. It's interesting. Now, you're talking for me or for the athletes?
Well, I guess say just for you yourself.
Oh, for me, well, yeah, basically, the
in season off season for you now till
December, January. I have a break, and it's similar to the players. They have sort of 8 to 10 weeks where they're just away having a breather and physically reloading. So I'm the same. I don't necessarily physically reload, but I have a break. And then they start Super Rugby this weekend, and
Yep.
you know, so from this point onwards, I'm talking to their staff. I'm having conversations with some of the players occasionally. We're visiting the teams and catching up.
That's like a weekly thing. You go to different teams, or it's like once a month.
Yeah, it just depends every year on what the schedule looks like. So this year we've got a completely different All Black schedule than we've had in the past, because there's no June series. We don't start until later in the year, but when we start, we're together the whole time. So yeah, we're just looking at that at the moment. But it'll look like, you know, I might visit the clubs once or twice over the super season, and but I'll be probably on the phone, you know, a bit more regularly with some of the staff. And yeah, we basically, as soon as the players start dropping out of the super competition, we engage with them pretty fully.
So that will come into a camp straight away as such, or
I'll tend to visit them and leave them at home, because they've been playing rugby for 5 months. The last thing they want to do is jump on a plane and go somewhere else. So we'll tend to go to them a bit. But it's all a bit dynamic, because you know we could have no teams in the finals, or we could have 4.
Yep.
You know, and so we have plans in place that are flexible and dynamic to be able to adjust to what actually does happen. Yeah, so really I'm in a monitoring phase from now on, and then when they start, it's a matter of, well, what do I think they need, and what do they think they need based on how they've played through the season. You know, have they played big minutes? Do they need a breather? Have they had a big injury and now they just need to get fit again? You know, have they been managed to a level where we need to reload to be able to handle a test match week? So everyone's different, you know. It's sort of been doing it for a while now, so I can't plan too much, because I don't know what I'm planning for. So you sort of got to have some options up your sleeve and watch, and every week that's where we monitor and have phone calls and things, just to try and keep our finger on the pulse.
Yeah, I've always talked to interns about this. Like, it's so hard to have any structure around what we do, because it's such a chaotic environment. Like, things change week to week, month to month. So you've got to be able to kind of think of it on your feet, have that kind of variability in your program, because otherwise it would just do your head in. Yeah,
and it's a big year, because we don't finish playing until the end of November. So you know, they have a big super season, and then we've got 17 weeks away out of 24. You know, the All Blacks.
Yeah, so the boys that make the finals, Crusaders say they make the finals. Those boys have got a really long season, from pre-season right through to then national stuff. It's taxing.
Oh, it's tough, and so you sort of, you know, part of it will be more about rest than physically what I do. It'll be more about that management of player energy levels and fitness levels and health and well-being, versus can we get them as fit as they can be for November. It's quite the opposite. And so it's a tough way to finish up in Europe. Yeah, and it's always been tough, you know, even for staff who aren't even out there getting beaten up every week. You know, we're knackered at the end of it, and we're only together for 4 or 5 months, and they've been playing rugby since January.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a toughie.
So with all the players you have scattered around the country, how do you keep on top of them? Do you use like any technology, or to kind of, I guess, keep on top of their programming, or just for phone calls?
Yeah, no, so we don't use any technology as such. We've got a database that we have shared information on, and it's more around me talking to the staff and getting any information I want that they'd like to share, and then we have conversations and things. So you know, I'll see the programs they're doing. I'll have input to programs. I'll see what sort of running loads they're doing, and have discussions about that. I'll watch games. I'll talk to our selectors and coaches. What are they seeing when they visit? What do they see when they watch the players play? You know, and then if there's any observations like, man, this player looks really slow, we'll have a conversation with the staff to say, hey, you know, where's he at? What's he up to? Has he been looked after? Has he got a hamstring tightness? You know, whatever. So it's more around conversations, yeah, rather than direct contact with the player and any monitoring from afar.
Yeah. Again, I think it's like the common thread with what you're saying is the relationships. Like, that's hugely important. Like, keeping those relationships, having good communication between them. That's kind of going to keep the consistency going with what you guys are trying to do.
Yeah, and I think the super clubs have their own systems in place, and for them to expect their players to input stuff into another system or to do something else for someone who's not going to be working with them for another 4 or 5 months. It's sort of unrealistic, I think, or unfair. So it's more around hoping and ensuring that the super clubs are running a great program, and we've got great staff around the country now who all have different ways of, slicing up the apple, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I love it because, hey, I learn so much from the super clubs. Always have, always will, because they're always trying to find the
extra edge.
the extra edge, and they're innovating and they're playing around the fringes, and it's really nice. And so I find it a refreshing time of year because I get stimulated by what they're doing.
Do you think, that's because they've got a little bit more margin of growth within their squad? Like you're kind of dealing with the cream of the cream athletic-wise?
Yeah, I think they've got so much more time together, and they're at a home base.
Yeah.
We don't have a home base, so we're on the road in a different hotel every week. So we're limited, but I suppose it doesn't mean we can't implement some things that might be happening around the country. But they're together for like 9 months. So not the All Blacks with them, but their squad's together for 9 months. We're together for sort of 5 months with no pre-season. So our ability to do some of that stuff's a bit different. So very different programs, very different needs, and there is probably more margin for growth within their squad because they've got first year pros. They've got guys that have been amateurs for a period of time. They've got school kids. It's sort of very different. So. But yeah, I love visiting and catching up with them all because there's always learning going on.
Yeah, but God, amount of coaches, like I think we're one of the most education-seeking of humans. Like every coach I've met, they're always into their higher education, just learning from others. Like it's a pretty cool thing to be a part of at times.
Yeah, well, it's stimulating. Learning's pretty enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's okay not to know everything. I think that's important, and I love learning. It gets me excited.
Yeah.
When I find a new way or some new information that I think, man, I can't wait to teach that to the athletes, or can't wait to put that into the program. It's it's the only way you stay, I suppose, energised and passionate about what we do.
Yeah. Make sure you're just always evolving, always growing as well.
Yep.
So I guess with programming, like you just mentioned, what are some of your key components that give you the best bang for your buck within your program?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about this.
I know it's a big question, but
yeah, and I was thinking about that. If there was one thing that I needed to do every week, it would be lift weight. So I think staying strong is really important, and not
just for that robustness.
Yeah, just purely from a collision protection perspective. I think. I'm not saying lifting maximal weight each week, but just getting under the bar and having some load on your back, I think is really, really important from a health perspective long term.
Yep.
And so I say health perspective long term. So for me, it's hugely about being prepared for collision.
Yep.
So being able to, tackle or be tackled, and be able to stand up after the forces have been exposed to you, in whatever way. And I think that's probably the thing that I'd say is most important.
Yeah. Like the expression of force, and then the subsequent actually absorption of that force.
Absolutely, yeah. Because you can't perform and you can't get better if you're injured.
Yep.
And so if I strip it right back, what's the thing that's going to help us stay uninjured? It will be staying strong. And so if you stay strong, you can continue to work on getting better because you're fit and healthy. You can practice skills, you can express them on the field, and you can do it again the next week. So I think that's probably the big rock for me.
And I guess the big question is then, how's that changed from when you first started?
Oh, well, my first exposure to the All Blacks, 04 backs, so our speedsters, our running athletes didn't do lower body weights.
Yeah. And your mindset was to protect them, or?
No, they didn't do them because they got sore.
Yeah.
So that was only 15 years ago, 16 years ago, and it was, I don't know what it was like in other sports at that time, but yeah, lower body weights was a no-no for backs, and even out of the forwards, a lot of them wouldn't squat, and so that's probably the thing that's changed most. It changed really quickly when I got involved, but everyone lifts weights, and now the athletes love how they feel from being strong, and being able to lift. And now it's the matter of trying to make sure they don't do too much, you know. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is there's a greater buy-in and reliance on going to the gym than there used to be.
Was that in part, I guess, through your education or educating of the players on the benefits of it that create that buy-in?
Yeah, big time. And you know, like I think probably rugby in the late 90s and early 2000s was probably about running and being running fit and being able to just throw the ball around, and that was fine. But back then, players probably weren't playing 33, 34 games a year.
Yeah.
So
demands are a lot
the demands
higher
are
now
different.
compared to what
you know,
game speeds, the size of the athletes.
Oh, like every year. So I've been with the All Blacks full time for this is my 13th year, but every year our players have got a kilo heavier.
Well,
yeah. So our props and locks have got a kilo heavier per year. So and that's because we've got better nutrition and we've got a better lifting environment culture. And so, the lean mass that these guys are carrying now has just gone through the roof. Sammy Whitelock's a good example. He's a lock for the All Blacks, and I met him in 2008, and he was 108 kilos, and he now runs around about 118. So him as an individual's put on 700 grams a year. Hasn't got any taller.
Yeah. It's all muscle mass.
But when he came in, he wasn't a lifter. Didn't lift weights. So the lifting culture and the nutrition has probably resulted in, just makes it more important
for the collision
fitness and the ability the reason of being strong. It's a bit of a vicious cycle, but that's probably the biggest things that have changed.
It's crazy to think like that % of increase in body mass, like where's it going to be in 10, 15 years time? Yeah,
or the other thing is just because the sport's become more professional, like even how much training the guys do now. We used to have guys falling over because they couldn't handle the training load, and now it's like, man,
give me more.
Yeah, keep throwing it at me. I'm good to go. And so now, we've got a lot of time on the field, we've got a lot of time in the gym. So we need to sleep and eat even better than we used to, and it's becoming the athlete should be doing 4 or 5 hours training a day on some days in a test week, whereas 12 years ago, no chance. Be hour-long gym sessions and hour on the field, and you're done and dusted. So it's very different.
Cool. You don't have to talk specifically about the All Blacks here, but I guess as coaches we learn the most about, through our mistakes, and then kind of going back and seeing what we did wrong and then refining our systems. What were some of the mistakes you've made in the past, and then how has that changed your program?
It's a good question. I suppose a learning, when I think back to a moment of learning was, I think it was about 2000 and maybe 2010 or something like that. And Dan Carter came up to me to want to do some speed work, and I knew it wasn't a good idea because it was at the end of a big session, and he'd played the week before, so he would have been carrying a bit of fatigue, and so I knew deep down it wasn't a good idea, but I couldn't tell him no because it was Dan Carter.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he strained a hamstring, and so it affected our whole week. We had to bring in a different first five to start. And this first five hadn't played a lot of footy, so it created this amazing amount of stress within the whole group because...
And on yourself too. God, there's nothing worse than when we've injured someone.
Well, it's not Dan Carter hurt his hamstring, it's Gilly hurt Dan Carter's hamstring.
Oh yeah, I've heard that before.
So I was in a bit of a hole for a couple of days where I knew I'd cocked up, and Dan knew he cocked up, and so... I suppose the biggest learning was, well, how would I do that differently? And now if someone comes up to me, it doesn't matter who they are, what sort of superstar they are, I will have a discussion. Yeah. And if I have this inkling deep down that I think it's a bad idea, then I'll express that view and try to, I suppose, have a discussion. I won't say no, but I'll have a discussion of my thoughts and rationale, and then the athlete gets their chance to talk to me about their thoughts and rationale, and then we come up with an outcome. And so long as I've done that, then I'm happy. And so that's probably the learning I took out of that little moment, was actually have the discussion. Don't just let it happen and cross your fingers.
Hope for the best.
Have the discussion, get it out, because often the athlete's just wanting your thoughts.
Yeah.
And the athlete will listen. If you've got a relationship with the athlete will listen.
And quite often they're just wanting for you to actually put their mind at rest. They may want to do it, but if you give them the right answer, then they don't do it.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of head noise going on in there. So
Absolutely.
In many ways,
often they'll be wanting to do a bit of extra work because they feel like they should, and in actual fact, no, they don't need to, you know. And okay, well, Gilly said I don't need to. Sweet as.
Yeah.
I'm not being lazy, you know. So, yeah, I think having that conversation as often as possible with the individuals is key, and that was my biggest learning from that one moment. I've had plenty of learnings. I've made plenty of mistakes, and I think, you know, no mistake is that bad if you learn something from it, you know. Like if you don't make any mistakes but learn nothing, then that's probably the other extreme that you don't want to be at.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway right there. So this is, I guess, a question for myself as well. You've got a bolter come into the squad, real limited, say, maybe ITM experience, no Super Rugby,
Yep.
into a camp. What are your go-to kind of measures to get them up to speed?
Yeah, good point. I suppose our environment is pretty full on, and the first thing I do is they're getting bombarded with information. They're getting their minds are blown with the level of detail, the amount of work we do, the food, everything is just laid on. It's just their minds are just blown away. So
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah. So the first thing I do is I don't say or do anything with them special. I just bring them into the environment and I'll just treat them like everyone else. And I let them have a couple of weeks to sort of find their way. And then once I've observed their behaviours, their movements and things like that, then I'll have a discussion once all the noise is whittled down a little bit. So our players look after the rookies. You know, so you have a new player come in and they'll be taken under the wing of someone and shown the ropes.
Yep.
And so they coach each other. And
a mentorship and, like, say, off-field, on-field.
Everything, everything. And the biggest thing that I like seeing is when they come in and they see the level of the rest of the group.
Or they have got to rise to it, don't they?
Yeah, so they come in having been maybe a really good player in their group, you know, strong, fit, lean, fast, and then they come to our group and it's like, actually, I'm average.
Yeah.
You know, and the bar's there, and I'm only here.
Yeah.
So straight away, I let that do its work. And then when they've got big ears and they're ready to listen to me because I've seen where they're at, then I'll sit them down. And so, yeah, for the first couple of weeks, it's a bit of a rude awakening for them. You know, often athletes might get wrapped in cotton wool while they're getting built up to the level they need to be at, whereas we don't have time for that. If they can't handle it, they're gone. So they sort of have to just strap on a bit. And you know, I might make a point of ensuring they understand how important recovery is so that they can handle the load and get used to it quickly. But otherwise, I'll give them a couple of weeks before I have a sit down. I've already got information from their clubs where they're at and what they've been doing, so their program's a continuation of that. So they're not coming into a totally different plan. But yeah, a lot of it's I suppose taken care of within the environment.
So I guess in your position and with the level of athletes, you would deal with a heap of kind of type A alpha personalities. And I guess a lot of people across all sport have to deal with that. What are some of your tips to deal with that type of personality?
Like I've got a strong personality myself, and I've got my own opinions. And what's got me in trouble in the past is if there's another strong athlete who has their own opinions, is if I don't work with them, then you end up having no relationship. So you've got to drop your ego and your stubbornness.
Hard to do,
but you have to, and then you have to sit down in a way that brings those barriers down to have conversations with these athletes that, you know, may think they're untouchable or may have their own strong opinions. And I work with lots of guys that have their strong opinions and own ways of doing things, and I've got no problems with that, but I want to be part of the process.
Yep.
And so for me,
communication.
Yeah, for me it's just and often athletes just want some love. Athletes just want they want to know that you've got their back, you understand where they've got to go, you're going to show them some love by giving them some ideas to help them get there, and you're just going to have a chat and see how they are as people. Yep. I think most humans like to be, I suppose, like other humans to show an interest in them.
Yep. So
I think that's probably the biggest thing you can do is, you know, how's family, you know, oh, how much you squatting today, being your first point of conversation, but hey, how'd you sleep, and how's your little girl?
Yep.
You know?
Yeah,
And I
showing them
think
how much you care.
Oh, you caring's important, absolutely. And I know that when I get tired or I'm on the road for a while, you yourself stop caring a little bit and you forget that. But they're no different. They'll be the same, you know. And you can tell at the start of a campaign, everyone's caring and asking questions and full of energy. And by the end of the campaign, people just want to get on with it and get home.
Yep.
But I think it's important. It's something that I always know I need to do better, and we'll keep trying to do better. But I know it's important, so it's still a focus.
Yeah, big thing I used to do was I used to always watch the interactions between sponsors and fans and players and see, I guess, what the response of the players were, and then try to actually frame what I was doing differently, because they get asked the same things day in, day out by fans and by sponsors, and it just becomes like a robot for them. And so you got to have a different approach, got to show that you care, and then you'll actually get more back from them.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. You show you care, and all of a sudden you're creating a relationship, you know, and then they'll come and talk to you instead of making their own decisions. And that's the most, like, that's what I love. I love the athletes being able to come and have a chat to me about where they're at, off their own back, versus staying away from me because I'm a mad nutcase in the gym and I'm unapproachable. You don't want that. You sort of need to be approachable, and because otherwise you'll have athletes making decisions that might not be in the best interest of the team or themselves, but they just don't know.
Yeah.
So you've got to be approachable.
Cool. All right, we'll leave it there. We'll just have a little break. This is when sponsors are going to chuck me a ton of money just for the break, and then we'll come back for the... So, welcome back, Gilly, to part 2. I hope it wasn't too strenuous for you the first time.
No, enjoyed it.
So I guess the first part was all about trying to understand, I guess, your journey, your methods, and the second part, I guess, is trying to understand how you deal with some of the, I guess, environments or the situations you're faced with in your job. So when someone says someone else, when you look at someone who's a great coach, what are you looking at to, I guess, measure that coach is good? What do you look at a coach?
If I was observing a coach, I think there's a couple of really important things. Is one is obviously being organised and knowing your stuff. So I hate seeing coaches being disorganised and appearing like they're bluffing their way through because they're not.
It's easy to see.
Yep. So that's the first thing, and then the second thing is actually being able to teach. You know, so getting your athletes in a situation where they can all see you, they can all hear you, and they have big ears and big eyes and wanting to learn from you, and you have that ability to one, create that environment where they are like sponges, and two, being able to teach them in a way that isn't too quick or too slow. So being able to progress their learnings, and I suppose that's the second important point. The third important point would be then being able to watch and observe the athletes doing whatever you're wanting them to do, and be able to critique and review with them.
Yep.
You know, so it's one thing teaching them, but then it's another thing continuing to evolve what they're learning. So I think that's probably the coaching sort of skills that I'd probably look for. And again, it's what I try to do. Whether I'm very good at that all the time, I'm not sure, but you know, my intention is to try and teach across different levels of I suppose achievement. Every athlete or person is going to have a different level of understanding to start with, and so being able to strip things back or progress things quickly is important.
Yep. So speaking of assessments, at the end of the year, end of the season, how do you measure yourself that the season has been successful from a high performance point of view?
I suppose I do a couple of things. We look at our numbers.
Yep.
So we look at how we've got through the season physically. So injury rates,
yep,
types of injuries, you know, fatigue levels.
Track load at all, like load completed, sessions missed?
No, not really. No, don't look at anything like that. Strength numbers, body composition. You know, so at the end of the year, are we still lifting well?
Yep.
You know, not are we hitting PBs, but are we still lifting well? You know, so I'll look at the physical side of it, and then we obviously have performance outcomes. Yep. But we can be physically good and perform poorly on the field. So likewise we can perform well on the field but not have hit some good numbers, so maybe I didn't do some of my stuff well. So I'll look at all that, so I'll give everything context, and then the players give us feedback. And the players for me are probably the most important people for me to provide some feedback. And
Because they're normally very honest too, aren't they?
they are, yeah, they can be. Yep, sometimes they won't be, but it's anonymous feedback, so you sort of you see some things in there to improve, and you see some things there that you don't really need to worry about because only one person said it.
Yep. Do you think that's important to have, say, a player kind of involved review, like an anonymous one, like you're talking about?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, I mean, I love getting feedback because I want to keep getting better. So I hate not knowing if I'm doing a good job. And people have always said to me that, you know, no feedback or no news is good news. You know,
Yep.
like if no one's complaining, everyone's happy. But I don't want people not complaining. I want people raving. You know, I want people saying, man, that week was awesome. We were prepared so well physically that we were unstoppable on Saturday. That's what I want people feeling. You can't always get that, but that's what you want. You want people feeling like the program is giving them everything they need to perform.
Yep.
And express themselves. So what I like about players in the current environment that I'm working in with the All Blacks is that they'll tell me if they don't feel good. You know, they'll tell me, I felt gassed on Saturday night, or I felt heavy legs right from the start Saturday night. And then we'll try and reflect on the week they had and figure out some tweaks.
Yep.
So, no, feedback's massive.
I guess this is another one of my questions too. Like, how do you deal with the pressures of your role? Like you're, I guess you got the whole nation behind you. There's a lot of people that are probably asking you questions, throwing their opinion at you. You've got to deal with that, plus the athletes. Like, what's your secret to dealing with that?
So for me personally, to keep myself healthy,
You're on a bike for thousands of k's a week.
No, honestly, like I think for me to deal with pressure and stress and mood and fatigue, I need to exercise. So I need to exercise at least an hour a day, and I need to do that in the morning. And I need coffee.
Yep.
And if I have a little bit of exercise and coffee, then I can get through any day and do well. Like have a good day and be happy at the end of it. If I don't exercise and don't have my coffee, I can get in a bit of a hole sometimes, or I can feel the pressure.
Yep.
And then the third thing is sleep. So when I'm with the All Blacks, man, I'll go to bed at 8 o'clock some nights.
Yep.
Just so that I'm on my game the next morning, you know, and I just have to look after myself. So sleep's massively important, and you know, because if you are tired, you don't deal with pressure at all very well.
Yep.
You create stress about things you don't need to be stressing about. So yeah, I suppose over time I've got a recipe of exercise and eating and sleeping plenty.
Yep.
I used to exercise too much, and then I'd get tired, and
It would create more stress, wouldn't it?
yeah, and I'd get myself into a hole. Whereas I think now, probably because I'm a bit older, I don't need to exercise as much as I used to, and yeah, but I think that's really, really important. I'm no different to I don't like saying this, but I'm not an athlete, but I'm no different to them in that I need to look after myself.
Well, you've got to perform in a high performance environment. You need to perform at your best.
Yeah, I think so. Like, so I try to eat really well, try to stay fit and lean, and I try and get lots of sleep. No different to the advice I'd give an athlete.
Yep.
Yep.
Fair enough then. So you also have a wife and kids. How have you dealt with the pressures in and around that, plus the travel time and all the commitments around that?
Yeah, I still don't deal with it that well. Like I hate the first trip away with the team because I know I'm saying goodbye to my family for a wee while. So, you know, about 2 or 3 days out, my mood changes. My wife's mood changes, and it's like we actually create an unhappy place because we don't want to say goodbye to each other for a long period of time. But we've figured that out now. Like, it's just we don't even know we're doing it. But yeah, I suppose the thing that time apart makes you do is it makes you really appreciate time together.
Yep.
So
good answer.
Yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing for us is we're a real tight family, and we just love having time together. And I think that's because you know, for certain parts of the year we're not together. So yeah, I think that we've got a nice balance. You know, my wife will travel a bit, my kids will travel a bit.
Travel with you too.
Yeah. So yeah,
Europe and
they'll come
World
to
Cups.
Europe at the end of this year.
Yep.
My 3 girls will come to Europe at the end of the year, and that's sort of, without that, I wouldn't see them for 4 months out of 5.
Yep.
So this way, it means they're with me for 4 of those weeks that I'm away. Now I'm only not going to see them for 13 weeks, you know. So we sort of look at the calendar each year and figure out how we're going to get through.
Yeah, it's good because I think that's, especially for me myself, like trying to juggle those two things and keep your foot in the door, keep your, I guess, your mind on the right point to what we're trying to do work-wise, and trying to balance that with family. It's definitely a hard job. Very hard.
Very hard, yeah. It's definitely changes all the time. So the age of the kids changes how you need to do it. The schedule changes, so you need to have a look at how you're going to do this new schedule. But the key is that you're thinking about how to make it work.
Yep.
How to keep good balance within the family and within your work. So it's it's never easy, never easy, but it's something that's so important.
Yeah. Only a couple more to go. So I guess this is on a broad topic. What is your current view on the state of our industry, and where do you think we can make some changes to improve it?
Wow. Okay.
Give you the crystal ball.
Yeah, it's a good one actually. The state of the industry, I think there's way more opportunities now than there used to be. I'm showing my age a bit, but 20 years ago there was no opportunities in sport.
Yep.
And now, I now group sport and health together, and when you group sport and health together, or exercise and health together, there's unlimited opportunities. I think our industry is thriving and booming if people approach it the right way. We've got a challenge with social media, I think, where anybody can be posting things and saying things without any
and
critique.
be deemed an authority in that space.
Yeah, and so I think that's the hardest thing for me, would be all the mixed knowledge and advice that's been given creates more confusion for most people than providing clarity. So I think there's loads and loads of opportunity in the health sector and in coaching, lifestyle coaching, health coaching, sports coaching. And I think we just have a challenge around social media and, I suppose, mixed messages and how desperate some people are for certain knowledge.
Yeah.
Just looking at things like, game changers around don't eat meat, high fat, low carb diets, fasting, all these things that are being thrown out there that people are trying, and people are making lots of money out of promoting. I'm not saying I disagree with any of them, but I think that there is some dangers within what people have access to on social media.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
So you say you've got a bunch of up-and-coming interns you're talking to. What advice would you give them to make sure they have a strong, long, and fulfilling career in the industry?
I'll tell you what.
Again, big question.
Yeah, no, I've had a few emails lately about opportunities and interns and stuff. We don't do interns with the All Blacks. That's the first thing. But the thing that doesn't amuse me, it amazes me about interns, is often they're willing to just do what they're told to do or what they're asked to do, and
not seek knowledge.
Yeah, seeking knowledge. For me, if I was trying to get my foot in the door or trying to get a job in the industry that I love, I would be proving myself invaluable. So I would be going above and beyond what I'm asked to do. And I don't mean doing things that you shouldn't do, as in coaching athletes that you're not actually allowed to be coaching, but I'm talking making myself invaluable to not be employed the next year, Make myself so wanted that, hey, I get a job because they realise how good I am and they just need to find some money. Too often interns think that I'll do my internship, and then after my internship I've now got experience, I'll get a job. It don't work like that.
Yeah, big time.
Unfortunately, that's not how it works. You can't just come in and clean some water bottles and mix up some protein shakes and then be experienced to get a job. It doesn't work. You actually need to be doing way more than that, way more than what you're asked to do and expected to do, so that whoever you're reporting to within that environment is just blown away with what you can do and how hard you work. So yeah, I think that, there's so many people with qualifications, but because there's so many people, teams just use interns.
Yeah.
Use and abuse them, spit them out, get them to do all the shit work, and they're no more qualified than they were before they started their internship.
Yeah, and have got a very bad experience of the industry and will be gone.
Yeah, so I think you sort of have to suck it up and just work your butt off so that you are proven invaluable.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd be doing if I was 18, 19, 20 trying to get a job. I would be full of energy, I'd be the most positive person around, and I'd be hungry to work my butt off 18 hours a day, so that the following year you can't do without me. Simple as that.
Man, that's some great advice. I'm sure a lot of people will resonate with that. It's awesome. So I guess finally, what are some of the key takeaways that you want some of the audience to take from this?
I suppose we've talked about a lot of things. If I was to think about the key things that we've talked about, first one would be, as a coach, being organised and prepared for whatever you have coming up.
Yep.
The second thing is build a relationship with every athlete, individuals, and that relationship could be, talking about their kids. It could be talking about Netflix. It could be anything.
Yep.
Create a relationship so that athletes feel comfortable coming to talk to you, and so that you're part of decision making.
Yep.
And I suppose the third thing would be, don't chase numbers. Numbers are a really important part of what we do, don't get me wrong, and using numbers to plan and review what you're doing is important, but chasing numbers to show you that you're doing a good job is unlikely to result in the team winning. So they're probably my 3 take-homes.
Awesome, that's really good. So I didn't actually tell you about this, but I've got 5 little quick-fire questions for you. Just give me a straight answer. Biggest pest you've trained?
Whoa, biggest pest. You mean who's annoyed me the most?
Yep.
He didn't annoy me. I actually enjoyed his approach, but Andrew Hoare, who was a hooker for the All Blacks, farmer,
Seal shooter,
strong as an ox.
good necky boy actually.
Good necky man. Loved Hoare to bits because he was just such an individual.
Yep.
But because of what he did when he wasn't playing rugby, he was very strong, and not always the fittest, but probably one of the toughest.
Yep.
And so, when it came to the gym, which was a priority for me, he was just like, it was just hard work. He would always do what he needed to do, but it was just hard work.
Yep.
But I loved him because he was such an individual, and he was naturally strong from his time on the farm.
Farmer strength.
Farmer strength, farmer fitness. Like, I loved it.
Do you reckon you get it from Avos?
No, it was a lazy man's business. Yeah.
So speaking of hardest coach you've worked for. So not the worst coach, but the hardest coach that probably brought the best out of you.
Oh, probably Steve Henson in the early days with him when he took over. I think he was trying to test me. I'm not sure. I haven't asked him about it actually. I should one day. But he put a lot of pressure on me for a couple of months. And one particular evening it ended up in a bit of a blow up between him and I at a restaurant, where I disagreed with something that he felt really strongly about, and we had a big argument in front of a lot of people.
Awkward.
And so he, at that time I didn't enjoy, and it was pretty stressful for me, but I grew heaps out of it.
Yep.
And so did he, and he respected me afterwards.
Well, it'd probably grow your relationship stronger from that too.
Big time.
Yeah.
And from then on, he would basically respect and listen to anything I had to say, because he knew that I cared a lot and that I was willing to challenge him, and a lot of people wouldn't challenge him. And he told me that. He said, look, I want you to keep challenging me because no one else will. And so I suppose he was probably the hardest for a couple of months. That really pushed me and made me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that discomfort probably made me way better. And so whilst it was an unenjoyable few days, it was a hugely powerful moment.
That's cool. So a big one here, Nordics or no Nordics?
Nordics.
Good work. Recommended book for S&C and outside?
Oh, recommended S&C. Oh.
Or just our field related?
Conscious Coaching.
Yep.
By Brett Bartholomew.
Yep.
I reckon everyone should have a read of that. I haven't quite finished it. I'm 3/4 of the way through, but I have really enjoyed it. And best book for anyone else is my book, Health Yourself.
I did see that.
Yeah, so make sure you put that in your bloody shop.
Does that come with my free Evos?
It could. We could do a package.
Cool, I'm happy with that. And finally, when all is said and done and you're retired, what do you want to be best known for?
A good fella that, from the athlete's perspective, a good man that helped them achieve good things.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Nic Gill, thank you very much for coming on the Coach's Corner.
No
It's
sweat,
been a
champion.
pleasure.
No sweat. Thank
Thanks.
you for having me.
Cool. See ya.
Cheers.